Hi, Poppy Yeager here with This Day in History. April 13th, 1873 was the Colfax Massacre in Louisiana. 1873 was Reconstruction. The Civil War was only over for about 12 years. And we're at a part of history where they were really making strides towards equality in the South. The federal government had intervened, sent troops, and forced there to be some level of incorporating Black people into everyday life. The passage of the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery, 14th, which gave former slave citizenship, and then the 15th Amendment that actually gave Black men the right to vote, transformed life for many in the South. Unfortunately, it was only for a short period of time. With Black men being able to vote, and there also being some white people who were in favor of equality, they started to see Black men getting elected, or even white people who were in favor of equality. This was transformative, considering that the South is where slavery had existed for so long. But of course, with more gains that the Black people were getting, the white supremacists dug in and just tried to make things miserable. This is why we saw things like the rise of the KKK. White people wanted to take away the rights that Black people had gotten. In 1872, the gubernatorial election, both sides, the segregationists and the Reconstructionists, were considered themselves victorious. They fought legal battles as well as battles, physical battles in the street over which side was the actual winner. And both sides started sending armed people to various buildings to take over government buildings. And the Reconstructionists had taken over the courthouse, and a local Black militia was standing guard at the courthouse. That's when on April 13th, which was Easter Sunday, about 300 white supremacists showed up. A gunfire started, both sides shooting at each other. But the militia was outnumbered and they eventually surrendered. However, the white supremacists, someone accidentally shot their leader and they went crazy. At that point, they started killing the militia that were wounded or in prison or that they had taken prisoner. They then went about town on a killing spree. They slaughtered at least 150 people, although they could never really get an accurate count of how many people died because bodies had been hidden. It was awful. Only 3 white people died. Of course, the state did not intervene because they were segregationists and they were in support of this slaughter. But a couple days later, the federal government did come in. The federal government arrested people. But of course, the way things often played out in that time is the people who committed the crime did not pay anything. They were set free. That was This Day in History, April 13th, 1873. I want to call your attention again to how things haven't really changed. Once again, after the civil rights movement and all the strides that were made during the civil rights in the 60s, thought things were getting better. We actually elected Obama as president. That was supposed to be like, look at us, we're healing. We've overcome the racism of our past. Unfortunately, with the Trump administration, it's just another instance where the government is supporting racism. Racism never went away. It just lay dormant for years, waiting for it to be acceptable again. And that's a sad thing. Trump did not make America great again. He brought back the racism. He encouraged racism. And now the government we have state-sanctioned racism, and it's just going to get worse if we permit it to do so.